So before we get into the actual video that you can clearly see the image of, if it's directly up there, or I might have another picture. I'm going to inform you who this individual is. I'm at least going to go through three different news articles, in a sense, detailing to you, at least who one, right, of these individuals just so happened to be. On top of the fact that this is not even my first time actually covering a story dealing with this individual who is a billionaire. And the third story that I'm going to make sure to leave as the third story is going to lead into the video. Fashion mogul Peter Nygard hired his girlfriend, who is a known worker, to go after his two teen sons, saying that he wanted her to make a man out of them. The complaint filed Sunday in the Manhattan Federal Court alleges the sons, who are not being identified at this moment in time, are also victims of the businessman who have been accused by at least 10 women of decades-long trafficking scheme. Quote, hopefully my experience will help other people be able to speak the truth about what happens to them. And that was stated by one of his older sons. The men, who are two of Nygard's 7 children, claim that they were gone after by the same woman for 14 years, with the incidents both occurring at one of their father's properties. In the lawsuit, the older of the two sons alleged that he was sought after, right, by the woman when he was 15 years old at his father's Bahamas residence back in 2004. Quote, he said there was shame and very little understanding at the time of the incident. It's one of those things that when you look back at it, I see a pattern of it. That it happened with my younger brother. That's when it struck me. The younger brother involved in the suit claims that his father lured, enticed, and transported him from California to the family's residence in Winnipeg, Canada in the summer of 2018. Nygard, who was 79, allegedly stated that he wanted to make a man out of his son, who was 14 years old and a virgin at the time. The legal age of consent in Canada is 16. The woman, who was their father's girlfriend at the time, worked full-time as a worker and was paid with Nygard's company money to go after his sons. The sons, who are being represented by the same firm that launched the class action lawsuit against their father, are seeking an unspecified amount of damages. The older of the two sons stated that he hopes that the stories can lend weight to Nygard's accusers, who say that the fashion mogul lured them to his Bahamas estate with promises of cash, modeling, and opportunities. The women have claimed that they were gone after, assaulted, and forced to engage in depraved fetishes. Nygard has denied the allegations of the women. Quote, it's about backing up the other people who are being called liars. I'm hopeful that whether it's this lawsuit or other lawsuits, that there will be some truth served, because I don't feel like anyone should get away with this type of behavior or abuse. And that was stated by one of Nygard's older sons. A spokesperson for Nygard denies all allegations against Nygard. Quote, the complaint filed on Sunday by two John Does is completely without merit and repeats previous inaccurate accounts purely to raise salacious material. The allegations are vehemently denied. The complaint is yet another effort filed with falsehoods in a manufactured campaign and calculated conspiracy designed to destroy Peter Nygard. Peter Nygard's doctors say that the stress of incarceration is putting the 79-year-old fashion designer at risk for a heart attack, stroke, or cardiac event. The details are in an affidavit written by Winnipeg's Dr. Harvey B. Lee that was submitted as part of Nygard's bail appeal. Last month, Manitoba Court of Queen's bench Justice Sean Greenberg denied Nygard bail because she was concerned about the possibility of witness tampering if he was released. His bail appeal will be heard in the Manitoba Court Appeal on Thursday. Nygard was arrested December 14th on a number of charges filed in the Southern District of New York Court, including trafficking and racketeering. He's currently at a Headingley Correctional Center just outside of Winnipeg and faces possible extradition to the United States. None of the allegations have been tested in court. Nygard hasn't said if he plans to fight the extradition. The United States filed a formal extradition request on February 9th, and Canada's Minister of Justice issued an authority to proceed, which authorizes an extradition hearing and is the first step in the extradition process on March 4th, according to court filings. In an affidavit, Dr. Lee states that he last saw Nygard in person at his Winnipeg medical office on June 29th, but has done virtual visits with him since he's been behind bars. This was in December at the Winnipeg Remand Center, then at Hangley Jail. Dr. Lee states that he arranged for a live video interview with the fashion designer on March 4th because he was concerned about Nygard's physical health. Quote, I observed a marked decline and deterioration of his physical appearance. He had aged dramatically. He said given Nygard's age and the dramatic change in his appearance, he believes his patient is at an increased risk for a heart attack, stroke, or cardiac event. Court filings state that Nygard isn't getting proper nutrition while in jail because of sugar allergy, and that his poor diet increases his susceptibility to the pandemic. Quote, he has provided evidence that he is allergic to approximately 70% of food served in Hangley Correctional Center. It contains sugar and or white carbohydrates. Nygard used this argument the first time he applied for bail. Court heard he had been provided a vegan diet to address his concerns. Documents, Nygard's lawyers state that their release plan has been beefed up to include around-the-clock monitoring of Nygard's electronic devices and mobile phones to address concerns about contacting witnesses. They also state that Nygard has no criminal record, strong ties to Canada, and no passport that would give him the ability to travel. The documents also state that the revised bail plan addresses concern about Nygard being a flight risk or committing any offenses if released. He will be monitored 24/7 by a security company through live cameras, and his lawyers say that they've hired a third party to monitor Nygard's phone and computers should he be released. He would only be allowed to call or text with pre-approved people, and the calls will be recorded and provided to an independent third party monitoring for review. Quote, public confidence in the administration of justice would be maintained with a plan of release that will effectively place the applicant in home confinement without the real and heightened risk of attracting the pandemic while in custody. Revelation comes as the 79-year-old fashion mogul was charged with trafficking after he allegedly went after a girl as young as 14. U.S. prosecutors demanded his arrest in Canada, and he faces extradition on charges of assault, racketeering, and trafficking. 57 alleged victims, including a Brit, have also joined ongoing legal action, claiming that Nygard uses violence, intimidation, bribery, and company employees to lure victims. The mogul, who has a net worth around $700 million, strongly denies all allegations against him. A new book by Melissa Cronin, a copy of which was provided to The Sun Online, makes claims about Nygard's alleged bizarre behavior. Quote, Predator King, Peter Nygard's dark life in the R-word, drugs, and blackmail. Cronin also has probed Jeffrey Epstein and claims Nygard had an obsession with staying young. The tycoon allegedly ended up establishing his stem cell research company on his island of St. Kitts, near his home in the Bahamas. Cronin alleges the purpose use the disregarded items from women from his pregnant girlfriend to provide him with fresh stem cells. Quote, I may be the only person in the world who has my own embryo growing in a petri dish. An ex-girlfriend, Sulin Medeiros, wrote in a 2014 memoir about a trip she took with Nygard to the Ukraine where he was having stem cell research done. Quote, he asked Sulin, do you know what the best stem cells are? She wrote. And he replied, embryos. Correct. If you got pregnant and had a miscarriage and so on, we could use those embryonic cells and have a life's supply for all of us. You, your mother, and me. A lot of people are doing it, according to the book's excerpts published in the New York Post. Medeiros states that she was beyond stunned. Quote, this was the sickest thing I'd ever heard Peter say. I couldn't speak for a moment. Finally, Catching my breath, I said, Peter, I don't believe in this type of thing. Nygard would host what he called pamper parties, often at his private island resort Nygard Cay in the Caribbean. He would allegedly choose out girls for intercourse and then either force himself upon them, drug them, or offer them cash. Nygard is alleged to have targeted women and underage girls with the false promises of modeling opportunities before going after them. In a statement, the Justice Department stated that Nygard is facing charges related to at least a dozen victims in a pattern of criminality across the United States, the Bahamas, Canada, and other locations. Peter Nygard denies all charges.
Stem cell technology that Peter and I are investing in is called SCNT, which takes the egg of a young, perfect woman specimen, takes the egg and takes out the nucleus and puts our DNA in the nucleus. They just go in and take it out.
Sorry for the brief interruption, but this is the information that we should know about. This is the SCNT that he referred to, or somatic cell nuclear transfer. Somatic cell nuclear transfer, or SCNT, is a technique in which the nucleus of a somatic body cell is transferred to the cytoplasm of a enucleated egg, an egg that has its own nucleus removed. Once inside the egg, the somatic nucleus is reprogrammed by the egg's cytoplasmic factor to become a zygote, or fertilized egg nucleus. The egg is allowed to develop to the blastocyst stage, at which point a culture of embryonic stem cells, or ESCs, can be created from the inner cell mass of the blastocyst. Mouse, monkeys, and human ESCs have been made using SCNT, or somatic cell nuclear transfer. Human ESCs have potential applications in both medicine and research. The most practical application of SCNT is in the reproductive cloning of farm animals that have exceptional qualities, such as the ability to produce large quantities of milk. Reproductive cloning is accomplished by implanting a SCNT derived blastocyst into the uterus of the surrogate mother, in which the embryo develops into a fetus carried to term. Dolly the sheep, born in 1996, was the first mammal cloned using SCNT. The technique also could be used to resurrect extinct species. For example, cells collected from frozen woolly mammoths could be used as nuclear donors for nucleated elephant eggs. Proof of principle for such resurrections was provided by expert, in which mice were cloned using somatic cells nuclei derived from a mouse that was frozen for more than 15 years.
Huh? And this is part of this genetic greatness that we don't see in any other race on the planet. These curvy, sexy black women from Africa. You girls have a kind of a monopoly on this genetic perfection, and we want some of that. So, girls, for $100, we will pay you for your egg.
No, you $100, monkey.
You can get paid a lot more than that. So how much do you want for it? Let's bid. I bid $500 for Hito. I'm prepared to outbid him anyway. Whatever I bid, he's going to outbid me. I bought about $60,000 worth of eggs. Yeah. If you have abortion, that's very valuable. Umbilical cord, and placenta. Even your period blood is so rich with stem cells. We regard it as waste, and it actually should be. It should be captured as recycled, and it shouldn't go to waste. It's life for somebody, and it's life for mankind. The best eggs are 16 to 18 years old. Those are the best eggs. As you get older, your eggs get weaker and weaker.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So you may not be our top candidate.
No, that's fine. I think I was my business anyway.
Cloning yourself with the idea of making yourself immortal, I think, is science fiction, and I think it's unethical.
So what you were able to witness, right, was some very rich, wealthy European men, and you saw black women directly at the table, right? And this is something that you would see some black women on social media cheering about. It's like, yeah, we're sitting up there moving up all this other type of stuff. We're around money, da 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 da, right? But then it gets into the genetics about the whole thing, right? It gets into the meat and potatoes about it, right? And he basically states that black women have, a leg up on all of the other competitors around the world when it deals with genetics and when it deals with, their own eggs and different things of that nature. So this is after explaining, this is when, after hyping him up, he starts, I'll sit up there and give, I think what he say, like $50 or $60, right? And he was being more than likely dead serious because he feels that, they're stupid and that they're not going to know the actual worth, right? This is why he's able to have them at the table. This is why he's able to talk to them the way that he's able to talk to them, right? He can hype them up and then hit them with the low blow, be like, oh, you guys are owed this much, and you guys are so beautiful and you're genetically gifted, you don't even know how much you're actually really worth, so I'm going to start it off with about like $50 or $60. Woo, let me tell you something. Ooh boy, that's a blow right there. That is a blow. But then you had the other one come in to basically, the good bad cop, good cop, right? So you had the other guy, the fashion designer with the wild hair, right? He came in and he was like, well, I've offered somebody before, 60K, for an egg or for, their eggs and, different things of that nature and yada, 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 and all this other type of stuff. And then he tries to clean up what, his friend over there stated. He was like, going out there and, and getting this certain type of thing done where you're discarding, excess material. He was like, that's a waste. That could actually be better used and suited for people all the way down to the menstruation bleeding that can be used as well as the umbilical cord as well, basically everything to do with that woman and doing with that process, right? All of that can be used for scientific and medical needs, right? And he was listing how beneficial it was, yet again emphasizing how important and precious black women are. But yet I don't really think they still even comprehend, right, their actual value. I don't even think black women in general actually comprehend what their actual value is. But yet, like I said before, I'm just a black man, right? I don't know anything at all. This is a lot of black women's preference, right? You have dating up, right? You have this older, wealthy European man. He has them around to the table, showing them the finer things, and he's letting them know what their actual value is. But yet, these women still aren't comprehending exactly what it is. Now, you can see when you go back and look at the footage, you can see some of the looks from I think one or two of the black women at the table, right? They're maybe going through like, oh, should I really be here? What am I really doing this for? What am I really going to get out of this? You can see a lot of that stuff there. But if he was to basically present a briefcase full of money directly to these women at the table and said, this is all you need to basically do, and this is all you have to give me, and that's it, and the money is yours, I promise you about 99% of those women are going to sit up there and take that money and do exactly what it is that he's sitting up there telling them. And I'm pretty sure you would have a lot of other black women, if they were given a chance, they would do the exact same thing as well, because they're like, oh, well, it really doesn't matter. The money is more important. I really didn't plan on having kids anyway, yada, 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 all this other type of stuff, right? But like I said before, pay very close attention to the information that I gave you before. Not just on the fact that this material coming from black women is the greatest of the greatest, but they need this for a very specific reason. And one of the reasons that was listed by one of the last guys talking, he was like, this is good for cloning, right? He was saying trying to clone yourself is unethical, and he disagrees with it, and da da da. What he basically told you without actually saying it is that they've already been cloning human beings. They've already been working on these things. AKA, look at the movie called The Avatar, where you can transfer your consciousness from one main body to another main body. That's basically what the rich are doing. They're figuring out ways in different avenues so that they can elongate their stay on this planet and elongate their money and their rule, right? So that they can continue to be richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. That's all this basically is. It's the Avatar in real life. And they're telling you exactly what it is, right? On top of the fact, when you go back and look at the information about SNCT, or somatic, let me go back to the word, somatic cell nuclear transfer, all of that has to do with cloning. Yet again, go back to the movies such as Jurassic Park, where they took old DNA, right, from dinosaurs. They found a mosquito that had some blood. It was trapped in amber, so the blood was still fresh, the mosquito was still fresh as well. They drilled inside of that amber, and they took that DNA and then they put it into a clean slate, basically a surrogate. What they told you with a somatic cell nuclear transfer is they basically found the best closest relative that would create the things that they wanted. And then once they got the things that they wanted, they kept pairing them up up until they got exactly what they were looking for. This is how Jurassic Park basically started. This is how back in the early 2000s, they had a documentary talking about bringing back or cloning the woolly mammoth. Like they set up there and listened to you before. Dolly the sheep. I remember that back in 1996 in school, where they talked about this was the first clone sheep and Dolly. No, it wasn't. We've been eating clone animals for a very long time. Like I said before, it was just up until recently that they just wanted to tell the public that, hey, you've been eating cloned fish. We've been cloning a lot of these animals. We just thought, we should, sit up there and let you know, right? Like I said before, people have to pay very close attention to the things that are transpiring, that is happening directly around them. And the reason that I state this, in a sense to be aware, is because they're going to put a lot of things out here to have you, looking at 100 different things versus looking at the few rows that are basically directly in front of you in plain sight. Right? They're going to have you looking at the sun, looking at the moon, looking at the orbit and the trajectory of satellites and asteroids and earthquakes and tsunamis and all this other type of stuff. But yet they're doing stuff directly in front of your face and you don't even know it. They're doing things directly in front of your face and you don't even know it. So like I said before, think about all of the black women who have had womb transfers, right? Where they basically wanted to have their womb taken out. Where do you think that went to? Right? Think about all the women that decide that they want to go to, their doctors to, have a certain type of surgery to make sure, those kids, don't basically happen, 17 times in a row. Where do you think all of that material, that genetic, beautiful material basically goes? You think it's considered waste, but they make sure to put that in either some sterile water, or they'll sit up there and put that into a sterilized bag. They'll take all of that genetic information so that you don't have to sit up there and deal with it. They'll clean you up and all of that. All they need is that genetic information. This is why they have you sign certain papers and all this other type of stuff, because you're literally giving over your genetic material for free. And that's what a lot of black women have been doing every single time they've been going to these clinics ever since the 70s. But like I said before, I'm a black man at the end of the day. I can't really sit up there and tell y'all nothing. I got to allow Caucasian Europeans, I got to allow pilgrims to basically tell you what your worth is and what it is that you're specifically doing with your body and how wrong it is and how they've been setting you up to sit up there and do this more than any other ethnicity group of women on this planet Earth, just so that they can extend their survivability and their lifespan while you sit up there and die off. Pay attention.
So this is why I said, too, we got to stop birthing black kids. Happy to hear that 24-year-old girl that said that, no, I'm dating outside of my race who's a 24-year-old. I wish my daughters, they would have listened to me, but they just wouldn't listen. Maybe one day they'll wake up. I'm trying to, get my granddaughter prepared. She's 11. And yes, I shouldn't be talking to her about, but I do talk to her about and tell her, when you grow up, you need to get you a